Okay, we're happy. Are we truly happy? You just wasted 2 minutes. We have 18 minutes
you're on
left.
that side.
We have literally 18 minutes left.
Okay.
We have to take our picture from over here. This is terrible.
Do you want me to? You got the selfie? Live selfie? Yeah. Oh, come on.
Fucked it up. Perfect.
Just kidding. We're going.
Oh my God, we're still going.
No, we're back.
20 minutes of that.
It's just like that Doge meme of just him bobbing his head. Just. Welcome back, everyone. It is Christian Olson with my lovely guest that's typically behind the camera, but now she's live on the pod.
Hello.
Liv Skofteland, thank you for joining us today.
Of course.
For
Thank you for
Baltimore-
pronouncing my name correctly. That was amazing.
Do people get it wrong a lot?
Constantly.
What about people on the team?
No one on the team. I think you
Okay,
guys
I was
got it
gonna
down,
say
but
that's just
I've
pure.
gotten
That
everything.
would be pure disrespect. People on the team just
To be fair, it's impossible.
Well,
Have you seen it?
Yeah. Every time I tell like Siri and I like to call you or text you, and I say the last name, they're like, "Oh, I lost everything." Like they're like, "I can't compute. Don't know.
Doesn't
Can't
even
do
try.
it." Yeah, it's crazy. But today we are going to talk a little bit about spring market, pros, cons, buying, selling, and each. Kind of want to touch on that a little bit, but there's a very interesting statistic that I've been talking about, or like I've come across recently. And I don't know if you've heard this because you do, a lot of like the background real estate work.
Yeah.
But there's a study, 70% of agents sold 5 or fewer homes in the past year. 70% of agents have sold 5 or less homes.
That seems low.
The amount of agents or the amount of homes sold?
The amount of homes.
Like, so you think
sound
70% would sell more?
Yeah, than 5.
I would think so.
Yeah.
But this is stats.
That's crazy.
49% of real estate agents have sold only 1 or no homes in the past year.
40%?
49% have sold 1 or less homes.
That's crazy.
Wild,
Yeah.
right? And I was doing the math, and there's about 2 million, supposedly 2 million licensed real estate agents. There's like 1.5 million just with NAR.
Okay.
But 2 million licensed across the United States. 49% of that is 980,000 real estate agents have sold 1 home or no homes
That's
at
like
all.
almost 1 million.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. It's literally almost exactly 50% of how many licensed people are out there. They've sold 1 home in the last year.
Wow.
And I'm not knocking selling 1 home, but I don't know. I feel like some people have some side, like, it's kind of like, they're like, oh, it's my side hustle.
Yeah. I was going to say, I think a lot of people, it's just a side hustle. So like maybe that has something to do with it. Especially the 5 or
I'm
fewer.
not hating if you're doing side hustles, but for like people that want to sell their home, buy a home, and like, oh, my, brother's a real estate agent, my family member this, or, I got a girlfriend that does it, and do they fall in the 49%?
Right.
That's all I'm asking.
And how do you know? Honestly,
right.
If you're trying to find an agent, like how do you know that the person that you're choosing is someone who like does it full time or it's just their side
I feel
hustle?
like people don't really like interview their agents.
No?
I have buyer consultations where it's kind of like I don't want to say mutual interview. I'm getting to know them and understand a little bit more about what they're looking for and advise them. And then they're asking me questions and we're figuring out if it's a good fit. Same thing with like a listing consultation.
Yeah.
But I feel like a lot of the times people are like, no, I got somebody. And then they just go to them, hey, like, I want to buy, like, I want to do this.
Yeah.
And then they always have some sort of like struggle or something. And then you create this like stigma around real estate. And then you have the 49% of people who've only sold 1 or no homes at all in the past year.
Right.
And is that who you want representing you on your biggest transaction, which I find crazy. Like you're dealing with the biggest amount of money that the average person will ever deal with in their life. And you're hiring someone who maybe hasn't even done this before.
Yeah.
Which every real estate agent starts somewhere. I'm not knocking that. But like, is this their profession? Do they take this seriously? Or is it this side hustle that they just kind of dabble into here and there, right? It's just crazy. 49%.
That is crazy.
I can't-
When do you feel like real estate went from being like a side hustle to like a career for you though? I guess you're different than
it
most
was never
people.
really
Like I would say like
it was never really like a side
it never
hustle
was. Yeah,
for me.
you quit completely and then did this.
Yeah,
Most people don't do that though.
and honestly,
for most people it is like a
yeah, it's like a transition from one to another, which again, not knocking. I had kind of like a very fortunate scenario that I don't think happened to anybody else or very few people, is to where my lease in the city had ended somewhere in COVID.
yeah.
So I was like, I'm gonna move back with the parents. I like was able to collect unemployment because our job from the restaurant, like they closed us down,
Right.
and then my lease ended. I was like, well, whatever. And then this is when I started to transition into real estate. So I got my class, I passed everything. I was commuting an hour and a half, hour and 20 minutes from home to the office at times.
Yeah.
I mean, I did some real estate before my lease had ended.
Right.
So I was, I guess, kind of on the transition period. But I think when I really went like into the deep end full time, yeah, I had like that hour 20, hour 30-minute commute.
Yeah,
and it
you
was
definitely did.
was not easy. A lot of caffeine and just a lot of like discipline and dedication to it. But it was just like kind of fortunate again, the way that my lease ended and how I got my parents are very supportive, so I was back home, didn't really have a whole lot of expenses. I could just focus on real estate, learning about real estate and doing everything like that. And I think my first, I don't know, 6 to 8 months, because I wasn't like, when I first got into real estate, it was like March, April, May, or June, something like that. And then I got my license, and then basically that first, again, 6 to 8 months of me being licensed, I think I sold 4 houses, which is great.
Yeah, I think you did.
Which is great. Second year, I think I did about 18, maybe, I think it was 18. Yeah. And then this last year I think I ended at like 23.
That's great.
Which
That's
is
like
cool.
great
Yeah. And then again, I've had the pleasure, like, I don't know, pleasure. I've had the opportunity just do it full time from the start, like dedicate everything I have to it, learn as much as I can. Again, not everybody has that same opportunity. So I'm not knocking those people
who haven't.
Yeah. But it's more of like, hey, make sure that this is the right person that you're hiring. Do they do this full time? Do they have people around them that support them?
Yeah.
And then also support you, because I think that's very important.
Right. I would also say, like, for agents like out there, like you were saying before, like, why would you trust like a random like solo agent who sold 4 houses ever, or like not sold a house yet or whatever? And I think that a big part of what helped you as well is that you came into a team with Mike. And just having, and your first house you sold to someone who Mike knew, like he was on like a random like call list that Mike had.
Oh yeah, Dax.
Like Dax,
Shout out
exactly.
Dax, you know?
So like Dax already, he didn't know you, but he knew Mike and he knew the connection. So having like that support and that like trusted team member to get you started, that can like really jumpstart you when you don't have the experience. Somebody can have it for you.
What was crazy, like, and shout out for Mike for putting in all the time that he has leading up until this point even. Mike had a dial list of like old not even Redfin, like Realtor.com.
Just like random
Zillow leads, whatever, like online leads. And when I first started coming to the office, I didn't really have many people that I thought I could call. Other people would say differently, but I just started calling through Mike's old list, came across Dax, and you know, he had a kid on the way, really wanted to get things moving. So we set him up with a lender, and like, I don't know. I was coming into the office at awful hours. I remember that. That was not great. But I did stay pretty late on a lot of those days. But then once I started to like, oh shoot, like this can be my career. Just started feeding it more and giving it more like time in my life. And here I am today. So I don't know. You also like, I feel like people do think of real estate as like, as a side hustle.
Yeah.
And not to blame social media, but I think that does have a lot to it.
It's a big part of it, yeah.
It's the same reason why people want to do tax sales. Same reason why people want to do house hacking. And I'm not knocking it, right? Yeah. But people at the end of the day, I think, forget that real estate is work. Mm-hmm. You know? As crazy as it sounds, as many times as I've come downstairs and I've seen my mom watching HGTV, I think that's the channel.
Of course,
where they do like House Hunters,
Property Brothers.
This person has a budget of like $500,000, but they're shopping at a $2 million island, and they have just like a weird like job.
And the realtors on that show are like secondary. It's not about the realtor. They're just like there to open the door.
It
focuses on like so much other, like to the point where you forget they're there.
Right, and then even like, people look at that and think that that's real estate, and it's not at all. You know, it is hard work at the end of the day. So again, it's like you're gonna get what you put in.
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely. Like with anything, you get what you put in.
Literally. But on to, I guess, some stuff about the spring market.
Sure.
You wrote this.
I did.
So
I wrote it many weeks ago. I actually didn't even know we were talking about the spring market.
Okay. Well, surprise. What do you know about the spring market, or someone like, because you do things behind the scenes? I'm curious. This is like, what are your thoughts about it?
Yeah.
Like, have you heard of anything, or like, what do you think the general public might think of just like the spring market?
That's the thing, like, because I kind of am the general public. I don't know why the spring market is better. I mean, I know like the reasons that we wrote in this blog, but before that, like, I didn't know. But even before working in real estate, like, you hear like you got to sell your house in the spring. I have no idea why, but you're supposed to sell your house in the spring. So do you think it's true, or do you think it's just like a myth that like we've told ourselves, this lie?
It's not like you have to. I think there's a couple different things of like breaking that down, right? Like, there are people who have to sell their home at any time of year.
Yeah.
If it happens to fall in the spring, okay, cool. If it happens to be in the fall, summer, winter, like whenever, right? Those people have to move, right? So like, we take that out, and if we're looking at the best financial time to sell your home, I think it's kind of up in the air. I think it also depends on who you hire.
Yeah.
Because if you hire one of the 49% in the spring, could you have an expired listing in the spring, or one that just shits the bed?
Yeah.
Maybe. Mm-hmm. Right? In spring, if you just look at like statistics, or like Maryland spring market, because I don't work in any other market, it's always typically very busy. The reason is because a lot of people, like, they don't want to move all their crap out in the winter. They don't want to prep a home in the winter with the snow, with the cold. It's terrible. People want to be bundled up, cozy in their home. And I have that conversation with sellers on their phone. They're like, I'm waiting until the spring. You know, it's too cold. I don't want to do all that. I'm like, okay, cool. Right. There can be some downsides to that, right? You have to market your home appropriately and do the right things. But there are tons of buyers, just like there are tons of sellers, right?
Yeah.
So you do have to be someone that stands out, or you're not going to grab the attention of all those buyers. Pricing is important. The way you present the property is important.
Yeah.
So it's not just like, oh, spring's here, let me just throw my house at the market and see what happens. Because you still have to take the same steps that you would in the winter, the fall, the summer, right? I just think there's a lot more opportunity out there as a seller
to do it in the spring.
Well, take advantage of certain things.
When if you were gonna like list your house for the spring market, when do you need to start thinking about that? Could I do it to this week and be on the market?
And we're talking about somebody that does not have a timeline. Like, they just want to sell it in spring.
Yeah, like I'm like, you know what? I want to sell in the spring market because I heard it's the best time to sell my house. Like, if I started right now, could I do it? Or is it too late?
Today's what, February 26th? 100%.
You could do it now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, like, I don't think there's ever a time where it's too early. Start chatting with your real estate agent. Identify your price point. Identify what you need to do the home. Are you staging it? Do you have to clean it up a bit? Are you throwing on a fresh coat of paint? What's going to yield you the biggest return? And if we need to get contractors out there, okay, that could happen in 2 weeks, and you're still good for the spring market.
Yeah.
We get photos done. That's a very quick turnaround time. I mean, photos can happen in... Honestly, if you want them to happen in 48 hours, you could get that to happen. Oh, for sure. Right?
Yeah. And we get them back literally
and then you can put it drafted into the MLS, have it coming soon. So like, if someone came to me, like, regardless of spring market, it was like, I want to have my home listed by Friday or by Thursday, I'd be like, okay, cool. But we need to do this, this, and this. Can we make it happen?
Yeah. They just have to work with you.
Right. That's the thing as well, right?
Yeah.
Like, you have to be willing to, I guess, work and do those things to get to that point. Right. Is what I'm saying.
I think people think it's such a long timeline. Like, well, if I want to sell my house, but like, oh my God, it's going to take at least 2 months to get my house on the market. But I don't think that's necessarily true.
Get it on the market.
Will Cox, for example, I mean, he said that he wanted to sell his house. He reached out to me. I sent him to you, and he's renting it already.
Yeah,
that was a week ago.
We have photos. I think it's tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow.
It's going to be coming soon on Wednesday.
His house has been clean. That's what I got to say.
It's great. His house is clean.
That's great.
It's amazing. It honestly looks like when he bought it like 3 years ago, still very up to date.
Yeah.
Still in very good condition. Great property over there in Highland Town. If you're interested, let us know.
Yeah.
But it can be pretty quick. You know,
it doesn't have to be a long turnaround time.
No, and I think part of it is because we are a team. So we do have people that specialize in their things. So you're setting up photos. I'm getting the lockbox. I'm doing all these other things while you're doing other parts, putting into the MLS. So there are moving parts outside of just your real estate agent that some people may not be aware of. But then again, it comes back to like, is this person on a team? Are they a solo agent? Right. So if it's a solo agent, maybe they can't work as fast. Right. And maybe their turnaround time is a little bit longer for getting something.
Yeah. I mean, if you had to do it all by yourself, like you'd have to write the contract, you would have to put it in the MLS, get the photos scheduled.
Which could definitely take longer. Right. Yeah. So, I mean.
That's interesting to consider. I've never thought about that really.
Yeah. And I've honestly dealt with a listing agent before who like really couldn't write any addendums or contracts or anything because she was so busy with 2 clients.
Wow.
And one of them was our deal.
That's crazy.
And she just like couldn't do anything.
Like, I don't have the time.
Yeah. She was like, I don't have the time or capacity.
If it's your side hustle, you have a 9-to-5 job, you have a family, and you are trying to do real estate. It's like, when are you going to do real estate?
Yeah. Yeah. Right. And you just have to put in the time. But spring, there's an increased amount of sellers and an increased amount of buyers. I would say most of the time.
Yeah. Do you think it evens out then? Because if there's more buyers and more sellers, everything's
no, because just inventory is always lower.
Yeah, that's
and there's I don't think it'll ever catch up.
You really don't?
It'll be years and years and years and years before it does.
Yeah.
The amount of friends that I have that want to purchase a home, and there's other factors outside of it, but have not yet because of how competitive it is, or because they don't feel comfortable doing so. And I feel like a lot of people are in that situation. I'm not knocking it, but
for sure.
I think there are a lot of people who are scared, worried, don't know what to do, where to start, and you have to find someone that can bridge that.
Preconceived notions.
Yeah, but like the inventory issue, new construction, I think, is the only way that this is going to change. At least my first thought.
Yeah.
Right? Like you need to
build new houses every day. Just, I mean, I'm sure where you live.
I mean, we can't make more homes just appear out of thin air.
Yeah, but like, I mean, I drive past them. I drive past a new neighborhood every day. I look over, I'm like, oh my God, when does that get
There's
there?
a new development everywhere.
Every single one, starting in the 6s, starting in the 7s, starting in the 1.1s, which is the most insane one I've ever seen. For townhouses, I was like, what?
Yeah, it's wild. But you got to think like this effect. Like these new construction homes won't have an immediate effect on the market and like changing this inventory crisis. It'll probably let up some. And the new builds, they have some great deals.
Yeah, for sure.
And incentives,
you
but
can definitely get a good deal.
A lot of it comes down to people's location.
Yeah.
Some people, like in Calvert County, there's no new construction.
You don't have new construction? I assume it's where I live.
Unless you buy your own land and build on it. They don't
build neighborhoods like that?
Not anymore.
Really? Very interesting.
No, I mean, I think there's very little like opportunity to build. I know of like 1 or 2 small like little areas, but it's nothing like a huge new development.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have so many of those.
Really?
So for me, like the new construction.
Where you currently live or where
Montgomery
you grew
County,
up?
Where I grew up. Yeah, I just moved back, so.
Oh, yeah. How was that?
It was great.
That's cool.
I moved during the winter. I know exactly what we're talking about right now.
I was freezing my ass off carrying that stuff in.
I hated every second of it.
Right.
I built a fence yesterday. It was terrible.
I remember when I moved out of my apartment in Federal Hill, it was snowing the day that I moved out.
Oh, dear God.
And we had to move a couch and didn't have like a U-Haul. We just threw it in the back of the truck.
Yeah, college
and
style.
Yeah, the weather's just on this damn couch, you know? I don't even think I took it. I think so. Yeah, moving in the winter. Yeah, it's not fun.
No, it definitely wasn't fun.
But I think there's a lot of opportunities if you're buying a home in the winter.
Oh, sure.
Because the sellers who are selling are always motivated.
Yeah.
But you're not up against as much buyer competition out there, so you have the ability to negotiate and work things out. And I know a lot of people preach this at the top of their lungs, but it's true to a certain degree. Like if you wanted to get closing costs covered in the winter or fall off season, you found the right property, you have a higher chance of finding the right property, or should I say finding the right seller who's willing to work with that opportunity than doing it in the spring when everybody else wants to buy and sell.
Yeah, because then they have multiple offers. They're not going to take yours with the closing cost. That makes sense.
Yeah, you know?
For sure.
And at the end of the day, like I feel like a lot of people that sell in the spring are after one thing, and it's like the money. It's the net, right? And if you can't bring that,
then they're not interested.
I'm sorry.
Right.
You know? It's unfortunate, but it's just the competitive competitiveness of the market.
Yeah, absolutely. That makes sense.
Now, the house that you just moved back into, that's the one you grew up in your whole life?
Yeah.
So, okay. So you haven't moved with your family anywhere?
No. Well, my family, I mean, like, they bought a house in Tennessee and then they bought a house in Florida. But I've never, like,
after the Maryland
houses.
One?
Yeah. Okay, I've never had to, like, move houses.
Yeah, I'd be curious to see, like, what other people's thoughts are that have done that and seen their parents do it and what they say, right? Like, I've lived in the same home, or at least my parents have lived in the same home for the past 25 years. And I was too young to even know the previous home that we lived in. Yeah. And I've actually driven by it a couple times. It's kind of neat.
You're like, oh, I don't remember that at all.
Yeah, no, like, nice. We lived here? You know?
That's always what it is.
You're right.
Like some horrible townhouse.
Oh, man.
Your parents lived in before they had you. And they're like, oh my God, we need space now.
It was like if I'm remembering correctly, it was a single family detached home, but it wasn't like a cabin, but it was like, you ever seen those like homes that have like the wood siding that's like really dark? Yeah. It was something like that.
That's actually really cool considering like where you live. That fits like the vibe.
Yeah,
honestly.
It was neat.
Like
it was closer to, I think, the beach and the water, which kind of makes sense with that type of home. But yeah, I've never had to move. I've only had to move apartments when the time comes, and unfortunately, if the lease ends in the winter, it ends in the winter.
I'll tell you, this time I hired movers. That's the best thing I ever did.
Yeah.
If anyone wants my moving SOP, by the way, I moved in 6 weeks and it was stress-free. Like, I accomplished everything I needed to accomplish. It was fantastic. I'm never moving any other way again. And then Chris was like, we're never moving again. And I was like, that's a good point.
Yeah.
I figured out how to move. He's like, we're never moving.
I think that's a huge reason why people don't want to sell in the winter or like make a move in the off season. Moving, like paying movers, one, it can be expensive. But two, if you don't do it, you're doing it. Right. Like, you're going to be moving this stuff, and no one wants to
do that. I mean, when you get to a certain, like, we moved all of our like little stuff, and then like, so we didn't have to do that. All we needed the movers for was furniture. Yeah. Because we have like all this furniture, and we're 2 people. Like, how are we going to move? How are me and Chris going to move a grandfather clock? Like, Chris can move a grandfather clock. I cannot. And I'm like, I can't do it.
He's like,
no, it's totally fine.
You're like, you're gonna hit the door. I know I'm gonna fucking hit the door. It's so heavy.
It's literally us. So I was like, no, we can't do that. So I like got movers, and it was like $400. But they did everything. They moved everything out of the house, and they moved everything into the new house. Yeah, the heavy ass fucking furniture.
And you know, I'm just going through our list here. If you want to check it out, you know, go to our blog here. But there's a couple like pros that I just want to highlight on for selling in the spring. So curb appeal is an advantage, right? Like fresh lawn, fresh garden, sunny, right? Great. Optimal showing conditions, unless it's April showers, but then you got the May flowers, haha. Some just lively market activity, but the one I want to go is the higher valuation. So like the competitiveness can drive the price up. Yeah. But I think that's like it's kind of like a double-edged sword in a way because of an appraisal.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
You're like,
have appraisal gap coverage.
Well, yeah, right. But you think in the spring, like, instead of selling in the winter at $530, I'm going to sell in the spring at $550, which you probably could. Yeah. But at one point, does the sale price become too unrealistic as to where it won't appraise? And then you have to find a client that has the appraisal gap.
Yeah, right? Exactly.
Which there's that opportunity too.
I feel like I'd be like working with you guys. I've just seen you guys like, I don't even worry about appraisal. Like, you guys always make it work. You'll be fine.
Yeah. You know, I mean, but it's something to consider again, because like people who don't work in the industry or don't really see what goes on, it's like, yeah, like theoretically I could sell my home for much more in the spring. But again, at what point does it actually appraise? And do I have anything that can support that appraisal value? Sure. Right. So you could get 5 offers, 3 of them be 30, 40 grand over asking.
But then it won't appraise for
But then what happens when it appraises 10 grand under? Could you have gotten that same price maybe in the winter when you originally wanted to move? Or, right, like you see, it's not always... You
waited for what?
Yeah, and it's not always a one size fits all, right? So you have to really like evaluate, and I think having conversation is great, and it can never hurt. Let's see, cons of selling in the spring.
Probably more competition.
Bingo, there's that. So you definitely still have to do the same things to stand out as a great property. Yeah. busy schedules, quick turnaround expectations. I would say most people that do sell in the spring want that.
Yeah, they do.
You know, but for those who aren't aware, like spring, people are ready to get up and go.
Yeah.
Buying in the spring, more inventory than previously. But again, if you're looking to negotiate, I don't think you have as much opportunity to work with a seller like that.
Like the closing costs, like you were saying.
There's can be bidding wars.
But then who cares if it doesn't appraise?
Yeah, right. Like at some point you could say, hey,
it's
seller,
your COVID strategy.
you're right. Let's say you want to you're going to buy a property that's listed at 500. There's 10 offers. You got to offer an offer is close to 550. What if you just went 570? F it, right? Mm-hmm. And none of them had an appraisal gap coverage, which, by the way, would be very unlikely. One of them's got to have it. But if they didn't, okay, the appraisal comes back, and then you just go back to the negotiating table of like what
you're gonna
you'll actually pay, which for the seller kind of sucks because you thought you were getting 570. I know.
You're already picking out your boat, and then you're like, wait, what?
It's like that same meme where a realtor spends his commission check before he even gets it.
Exactly.
Like the seller spending his 570 grand before it even appraises. That's actually funny. I never thought about that. He's buying his boat.
I got the twin turbo one. What are you talking about?
You mean I'm not getting 570 anymore? Damn.
I'm getting 550. We can't even buy the good boat for that.
Well, it looks like I'm not selling
my house.
That's good.
That's an actual conversation I've had with my parents.
Oh my God.
That's pretty real.
Which one did they get?
They didn't buy a boat. They just sell their house. No. I couldn't even get a boat for that. Like,
do they have a boat at all?
They do have a boat, yeah.
Okay, nice.
If I was ever going to tell someone what to invest money in, it would not be a boat. It's constantly broken. It never works properly. And it takes $1,000 worth of gas every time you use it.
I've heard those
Boats
exact things.
Insane.
I've heard those exact things. It would be cool to have one, but I don't want to pay for that. Yeah, but I don't want to pay for that upkeep and just... I don't even pay for gas as it is, right? Why would I go back?
No, you don't pay for gas.
When are we coming out with these electric
Tesla
boats?
Boat? Yeah, come on, Elon, get the fuck on it. Cyber boat, let's go. It'll be like
that would be cool.
Like a battleship.
That'd be the fastest boat ever. I can only imagine.
You stop and it just throws you off. I could absolutely see this.
What were we talking about? We were talking about bidding and
bidding wars. And
appraisal gap coverages. Yeah. There are things to protect you.
Sure.
As a seller accepting an offer, but as a buyer, again, if you know what competition you're up against, maybe you don't have to do it, and you can renegotiate the price once the appraisal comes in. So, I mean, there's a lot of things to think about, and I think it's just again figuring out what's going to work best for you in your situation. It's the same, like we recently had a home buyer event. And we'll kind of end on this. We had a home buyer event. How long ago was that now? 2 weeks? A week?
2 weeks.
2 weeks? Yeah. We had a home buyer event 2 weeks ago. So Mike, our team leader, he presented kind of like the home buying process, what it all includes. And we had a lender come up and even a title representative come up and talk a little bit more about their world. And a lot of people had very, like, I guess, two types of questions, but there are only two types of questions, I guess. Very specific and very generalized questions. Hey, can I do this program? Hey, can I qualify for this? Hey, I have this on my credit. I've done this as my job. Will I be able to get pre-approved? Right. So like a very generalized statement and a very like specific, right? And a lot of the times when you go to a lender and have these conversations, or like you ask that to a lender out loud without really taking a deeper evaluation, it's like, well, we have like, let's chat about this one-on-one because theoretically, like, someone can qualify for this type of grant or program, but then depending on what your income is, are you out of the income limit? So then that wouldn't necessarily match for you. It's literally like we need to evaluate your position and what you can do so you can move forward. It's not like again, one size fits all. So it's the same thing with buying, selling, even investors. They all have different numbers, whether agents like it or not, because they can be a pain in the butt.
Of course.
They have their numbers. They have certain things that they want to meet, right? So it's never the same scenario. It's kind of like a Grateful Dead concert.
Oh, no.
They're never the same. They're all different.
You brought this back to the Grateful Dead.
They're all different shows. Every song's played differently, no matter if it's the same song. Mic drop, we're done.
It's like a Grateful Dead concert.
It literally is, because everyone's scenario is going to be different.
Sure.
You chat with your agent, you chat with your lender, you chat with a title company, the inspector. Everything's going to be different.
Yeah.
Every single time, right? So I think that it's just always like a huge takeaway that we have here on the podcast is like chat with a professional, evaluate your position, and see what makes sense for you.
I mean, that's the advice. You have to just talk. Like, it's like going to the doctor or anything else. Like, you can't just know that you need to, like, you got to talk to someone.
Well, yeah. Okay, so, I'm going through physical therapy for my back. Mm-hmm. Other people may or may not, but I hurt my back about a year ago, so I've been going to PT. Saw an ortho a couple times. Finally got one that I really liked. We got an MRI a couple weeks, like 6-8 weeks after I've been doing PT for a while now. I do have a herniated disc, and she's like, well, you could go this route. You could stay with PT, or you could go this route. So like, keep doing PT, could do surgery, could do injections. So then I had a consultation with a surgeon.
Weird.
I didn't just go, hey, let's go surgery, right? Hey, I don't want to just list my home right now, right? Yeah. I had a consultation to figure out what I want to do and what I think is going to be best, but also what an actual professional thinks. And like, it was honestly just a very good conversation of me like throwing any questions I had, concerns, and him giving kind of like his personal advice, but then also what like scientific data shows. And then when I was speaking with my ortho as well, she was like, well, like, you could go injections. That's probably the next route that I might go. You know, some people will just
tried to do that.
Some people will just pitch surgery and it doesn't play out the way that they want, right? So like, it's the same thing, whether it's a doctor, whether you're getting into real estate, whether it's a lawyer, right? Do you want a lawyer that specializes in, I don't know, fucking crimes and you did a crime? Or do you want a lawyer that specializes in speeding violations and you just did something way worse than that? Right?
You're just like horrible and you're getting a fucking speeding ticket lawyer.
Right. Like,
you're going to jail.
You want to find someone that's going to be best fit for you and figure out what's going to make sense. So,
right.
I mean, we'll kind of end it on that. Did you have anything else that you wanted to talk about or mention?
I was going to ask you if you had I was going to bring something up, but I think I'm going to save it. I'm going to make it our blog for next week. It's going to be extremely controversial. Okay, I'm about it. We're going to have an interesting podcast next week, so stay tuned. My name's Christian Olson. You can find me on Instagram at Christian the Deadhead. Liv, do you want to? Yeah, sure. You can follow our team at Michael Frank _ ___. That's our Instagram. Yep. And just watch our podcast. And if you're ever bored and you have like 20 minutes, read our podcast descriptions on YouTube because they're insane because I write them. They are quite funny. And have you ever read one? A couple of them. Oh my God, I can't believe that. I thought nobody had ever read it. No, that actually makes me happy. I see them from time to time. They are interesting. Read also, our YouTube descriptions. Also, like if you're an agent out there, someone in the real estate industry, we put together, as to say, Liv puts together SOPs for almost everything that we do, and it's very helpful. So like home buyer events or like the market trend reports that we send out on a monthly basis to all of our clients. Yeah. I mean, the blog, everything that we do, there's a system, a procedure behind it. So if you want more information on that, reach out to Liv, reach out to our team. We can get it over to you. Absolutely. We've got a lot of them. So yeah, sure. Great content. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we will catch you next week. Bye.
What's up, guys? Thanks for watching. For more information on the housing market, Real Estate 101, how you can leverage your position in today's market, and so much more, click on the link below. If you like this video or have a burning real estate question you'd like us to answer, leave us a comment and let us know. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you never miss an episode, and we'll see you again real soon.